Okay, looking at the air conditioning setup in a classic Wagoneer. This is a 78 Chief. A lot of them are the same. This one here has the York compressor and had to replace the evaporator on this one, which is inside. So when you do that, you have to take the bottom of the dash off. It's kind of a pain. And if you do that, I would just kind of suggest getting new hoses. One goes to your condenser, one goes to your evaporator. So Cold Hose, it's a nice company, makes nice new hoses. It's a pain to get to the condenser, which I'll show you in a second. And of course you have to get a new evaporator when you open up your system. On these things, the evaporator lives here. This one isn't tightened down yet, but it will be. Then here is your condenser. So it goes basically from your compressor. You got hot vapor, which comes down to your condenser here, goes through there, cools down into more of a liquid, and then it goes to your, boom, your dryer, as they're called. This gets any liquid out and makes sure by kind of filtering it basically that it is a liquid. Then it comes out and it goes down this hose, I do believe, to your evaporator. So your evaporator is right here, and this is what makes the magic happen. So now you've got kind of a hot liquid which is coming to your evaporator, which then basically when it gets to here it expands and then it gets really cold. And then it goes back to the compressor and starts all over again. So the system kind of looks like this. Compress, bubbly hot, becomes just liquid. The receiver dryer makes sure it's a liquid. It also helps cool it. And of course here in your condenser up front, that's cooling it, so hot gas becomes more of a liquid, becomes, it's a hot liquid, becomes not as hot of a liquid. I think it's about 220 degrees when it leaves the compressor. And then it comes here, gets cooled off a little bit here, gets cooled off more here. We're ensuring that it is a liquid. It goes through your thermal expansion valve, which is a very cool thing. It goes to your evaporator, which is right here. Here's your thermal expansion valve. Here's your evaporator. And then by this point, it's becoming a gas again. It comes to the compressor, and then it gets compressed into a hot gas, and it all starts over again. But basically, this is where the magic happens. This is under the dash. You have to remove this assembly here, which can be easy, or sometimes it can be a pain. But anyway, a couple screws hold it up. Then you got to pull it down. And the thing is, you're going to have to get a hold of these hoses when you get it down some. Grab them and pull them. You have to release them from up front, or else you're never going to get this out. So you pull the hoses through, and then you can get this down. I have found that if these things are old, like this is the original evaporator, I'm pretty sure. One thing, it's heavy. The old ones were heavy. This is new, came from BJ's. It's lighter, it's better. But I would just say, if you do this, for heaven's sakes, replace your hoses, unless you're really on a budget. These hoses cost about $200 made, about a little bit less if they just send you the parts. I'll put a list. It's a company called Cold Hose where you can get these. They do take one of the hoses that would have been two hoses with a viewer to see your bubbles go by, but they don't have some of those parts don't exist anymore, so it's just one hose. I don't really have the little viewer window. But I don't care, because when you're charging it, you see it in your gauges, and we'll look at that later when we charge this thing back up, so it's not a big deal. So one of the cool things about these is this. This is your thermal expansion valve. What this does, and this is how this thing works, which is really pretty damn amazing. So you've got your refrigerant coming in here. No, I'm sorry, your refrigerant is coming in here. And that is what actually is creating pressure. So there's a diaphragm here. And then this, I haven't pulled this out yet because you got to be kind of careful. I'll look at this one first. This is the example. This actually has some kind of refrigerant or some kind of a fluid in it. I've heard it's mercury, I don't know or not, but basically it gets hot, and then it comes up here and it basically pushes the diaphragm. There's a needle in here and it opens it. Now the fluid comes in here from the ultimately from the evaporator. So it goes, compressor, condenser to cool it down, evaporator to make sure that it is a liquid and it's a little bit cooler, comes here. That creates pressure, and that's actually part of what makes this thing work. They call, depending on how much heat is making it, is the temperature of the coolant coming out of this. As you see, it expands, like small, pipe here, big pipe here. It gets bigger, and that makes it get cold, and other things. And some people say it doesn't really get cold; it just absorbs heat, etc. Well, whatever. This thing gets frosty. So the whole of how this system works is pressure here. It's coming through, it's expanding, it's getting cold, and when it gets out here, the difference, and this is all kind of calibrated within the expansion device, valve basically, is depending on how hot this is, and this would usually be clamped to this. It has to always be clamped on the top if you can. When you get it in there, you'll have the ability to kind of move it around a little bit. Have this pressing there. This gets hot. Tells this guy, the hotter it gets, the more open this gets, the more coolant goes through. So it's constantly regulating that, and that's actually what's in part regulating the pressure of the system, so you don't blow hoses off. Later versions of air conditioning had like 2 on-off valves usually, which kind of helped not blow hoses off. But this is an elegant system. The York compressor is amazing. So anybody who says just replace that York compressor, if you've got the working parts, give it a try. This thing is like a refrigerator in the summer, and I'm here in Arizona, so it's 110, 115, and it's like freezing in this thing if I want it to be. So the expansion valve regulates kind of everything. And anyway, one thing I found is I actually cut this end off, and this one I was able to get off. You may not be able to get these pipes off, and these bolts off, like the old hoses off and such. I got this one off, but this one was like not a chance. It was like, no, I am not coming off. I will not. And so I just ended up sawing it off. Anyway, this one's junk now. I'll get this kind of together. I'll get this kind of about ready to wedge up in there, and then I'll come back and show you how it looks. It goes to the firewall there. With newer hoses, at least these are a little bit bigger, so I had to cut the little perfect circles out, and I'll just stick a bunch of silicone in there when I get this thing back together. Also, this is all covered in disgusting, like melted roofing tar or something, right? And it's just, it's nasty. So forget that. I'm not going to do that because it would be a nightmare to ever get this thing out again. You have to it's horrible. I think if you really were doing this and you were serious, you would just pull this thing out, cut your damn hoses, take the whole thing and just toss it and replace your expansion valve, your evaporator, and of course just start again and get new hoses, because this is hard to get to, and if you have an original one, that coal tar crap is just, it's a nightmare. So I'm going to put it back together with I'll wrap it with like nice air conditioning tape. That'll work just fine. Maybe cover that hole there with it too, or just stick some silicone in there to tighten that up. But anyways, this is the beginning, and also when this goes into the housing here, and I'll get into the electronics of this and how it works, etc., which there isn't much to it. You have a blower motor, and the knobs are there, basically on, off, and speed, on, off, and temperature. Well, fan speed and then temperature. And the temperature is being looked at by this. This will kind of come out sideways here and go like that. That just sticks through the middle of the evaporator, and that's how it knows your actual temperature gets told to the dial, basically, and it will click the compressor on and off, and that's kind of how it works, Anyway, I'll be back in a bit, and when we get this thing back together, then eventually, we'll go through the recharging process, and you'll know everything. And I'll go over a little bit closely the wiring, just in case you're having wiring problems with it. I mean, in the end, if you just basically turn the compressor on, if you get power to that, to the clutch, and it clicks, and you can hear the York compressor moving, you can always use a, like with the York compressor, if you have you can just maybe I'll do it as an example before we get this thing, when we get it all done, is you can turn it on, and you're going to hear, there's this one wire, you're going to hear this go, the clutch go clunk, and you'll hear it and feel it moving, running. And if you have an engine stethoscope, you can touch it, and be careful, it's very loud, so you'll definitely hear it running. You'll know it's working. And for the most part, if you click this clutch on and it starts pushing fluid, even if the thermostat and such is kind of gone, like you don't have the wiring for it, as long as you get power to your blower motor here, which is variable at the knob, but as long as you get power to it, knob or not, even if you didn't have your thermostat here, which would be good to have, it really would be, your thermostat working to click the compressor on and off. But even if that wasn't there, this little thermal expansion valve would take care of you. So you could have it full blast and just turn it on and off when to kind of regulate your temperature. Anyway, hopefully you got all your parts. We'll go over how they kind of wire up before we're done with this little series. And there you go. Okay, see you in a bit. Okay, just wanted to add that this guy here going back in, the old one coming out can be somewhat brutal, and the new one going in, you want to be careful. You don't want to bend your fins up any more than you have to. You'll bend them up a little bit here and there, but this guy here, it kind of slides in there, and that's about all that really holds it in there. This kind of snugs it tight as it goes into here, and then so you want to actually kind of pull this, stretch this back, this little screw hole, pull that back, and then kind of, you just have to kind of wiggle it around, and you'll get it in there without tearing it up too much. And about halfway down, stick this guy, through, bump the middle, close as you can get, and then put it in there. And hopefully you haven't torn it up too much. I know I cringe every time I do it because every little bent fin makes me cry. Okay, so I had to go to the hardware store and get a new bolt because the other one, it went somewhere in the garage. I don't know where, but it's not in the fans or the any belts or the fan of the belts or anything. So it's gone far enough, but it disappeared. It went that way as far as I know. But anyway, new bolt. So with that said, now we have checked the oil and added it or not. We know what's going on. These are screwed all the way clockwise, which means the hose is turned off to the compressor and to the service valve here. So now, halfway out 4.5 turns, we have juice. Basically, we have pressure to the AC compressor from the hose, the AC compressor to the service valve, and then all the way 4.5 more turns to the counterclockwise, and we have only between the hose and the compressor. So all the way counterclockwise is compressor to hose. Halfway in, about 4.5 turns clockwise, is a hose, compressor, and a service valve. All the way in clockwise is just hose is turned off to the compressor, which is kind of nice because if you need to put a new compressor in, you can just close the service valves and then put your new compressor in, and then you can clear the air out, which we're going to do now. And same process for if you had replaced the compressor, or if you just check the oil. Now I'm not sure how viable checking the oil is, if it's the best idea, because you are getting air in there. Even though we're going to clear it out, I'm like, theoretically there's oil in it, the PAG oil. Some I'm sure does get through into the AC system in general. I think you are probably exposing the system to some air, but this compressor's toast. It works pretty well, but it's going to get replaced in the fall. I just kind of did it to see if I could do it, really. But anyways, I think if I was going to replace the compressor, I would just have it purged and just evacuate the system and start fresh. I don't know if I like this whole thing very much, but all the same, old compressor, needed to check and see if I had oil. If you also have to do the same thing, that's how you do it. Now we know. Now, let's see if this is going to work. So I'm going to, let's see. These guys are off here. So I'm going to turn on here, open. Oh, sorry. It already was open. Wait. open. Oh, I had it open. One sec. So now that it's already open, I need to go all the way. I need to go. It's closed, so counterclockwise, 4.5 turns about. So 1, 2, 3, 4.25, 4.5 or so. Let's see, where is this thing holding air? Holding. That looks good. Now we're just going to purge it. So you go here, little purge. That's probably purged. One more time. Yeah, it's purged. The air should be out of that side. Let me hit my fan here. Now let's do the high side. This will be the real test. Now, actually, and now go all the way out counterclockwise. Give it a good little push. 1/4 inch. Also, with these, if yours are stressed at all, if they're tight or they're worn, I also have a square 1/4 inch socket that I found that I use just for this, because if these guys are a little bit snug, a little bit tight, you can roll them over with a wrench a little bit, and that's not good. So anyway, you can find one of those. I'll link to it in the show notes. You can get them on Amazon, or maybe you already have one. So this one is good. It's open. We close it. Hopefully it all works while you're closed, right? Pop you off. Boom. Now that side is done. Now I'm going to do the high side underneath, but that's harder to get to. You've already got the idea. Do one, do the other. So that's how we change. That's how we check the oil. There should be about, in general, 3/4 inch of oil in there. PAG oil, PAG 100, works pretty well. You need to get if you go from the old school refrigerant to the what R134, what is it called? The newer PAG is, the newer fluid is, here we go. Yeah. Yeah, you want to use the R134A PAG 100 refrigerant oil with a UV dye. Is good to do, because you need to, like I said, I probably already mentioned it, but you have to drain this, and draining it's a pain. You have to take it out, or just get a baster, a fluid remover. I'll put one in the show notes that I used, and I use to drain these out. You can get most of the fluid out. Change that before you put the 134A refrigerant in this if you're going to recharge it, or else bad things will happen. And anyway, I like these old systems. I think they're good. I love these old York compressors. Everybody, you hear a lot, go to the newsstand, gen or whatever, change them out, modernize them. And you can if you want, but if you have all the parts, if they're there, in general, if the parts are there and the electronics work, you're set. And you can always just, honestly, if you just turn this on to the battery, click it on, even without, as long as your expansion valve is working, even if you had no other electronics that were working in your setup, in your classic Wagoneer or car, it's gonna work, so before you replace it, and you can if you want, you can modernize it, but you might find that what's there actually works. These are brick poop houses. If it has PAG oil in it, it's gonna pump, and if these old systems pump, they're gonna make some nice cold air. Take care. When you get it all together, it looks like this. These guys are interesting to get tight. These fittings, get them as tight as you can. They need to, if you notice, be facing almost totally down, a little bit towards the passenger side. And the tubes are flexible, so they'll give you a little bit of play. This needs to be on top. The little thermostat there, or the sending unit for the temperature to the expansion valve, and expansion valve connects here, and of course the coolant that's hot from the compressor and the condenser, and then the receiver will go to the expansion valve here. And also this pressure is playing a role that it's getting from the compressor and how it works as it gets hot, basically as it gets hot and cold, as it changes temperature. this spot here does. It adjusts how much coolant is allowed through. The hotter it is, the more is allowed through. Engineer this with your little clip, or if you've lost it, hose clamp works pretty good. And keep it nice and snug and tight. Make sure it's clean. Don't crush the tube. And this is the original that came with it. I had to clean it up, bend it a little bit, but it works just fine. And it needs to be facing upward as much as possible. When you're less than like 3/4 of an inch or so, you want to make sure that this is on top, as close as you can get it. Now, I'll put the tape on here. This thing to focus. I'll put the tape on here, and then I'll give it a shot. I've already got it in there once with the fittings loose, so I can kind of see how it goes. That there, I had to kind of cut out a little bit because the hose I have now is bigger than the original. That grommet there, sorry, I figured this thing to focus. Yeah, that grommet there is chopped up a little bit, but I think it'll work. I can reach up there with some silicone and plug that after the fact. I can get up there behind it. So one thing I'm going to do is spray these hoses with silicone so they slide a little bit easier, and try to get this thing back up there. And I'll do one more shot with the wrap of the thermal tape on there. Like I say, I'm not going to use, like melted roofing tar, which is what I think was originally on here. If there's a leak, you have to pull this down. You'd almost destroy it getting to it with the old roofing tar they used to put on there. So anyway, there we go. I will be back. All right, it is wrapped up. I just used the tape, and it's pretty sticky, and I just wrapped each side. And all right, it is wrapped up, and it takes a little while. Be patient. And it's pretty sticky. I use pretty sticky ties, and I strategically keep it each side, so it wouldn't separate. And also then wrapped around it. Will support. And it takes a little while. You can even wrap some and it's pretty sticky. I use some zip ties, but strategically to keep it so it wouldn't separate over time. It's pretty sticky, but a little support. It doesn't hurt. You can even wrap some tape around it, I guess, too. But now to install it.